also other Ottawans showed up and they asked really, really good questions, and it was quite interesting because we've actually grabbed those questions from the YouTube video of the committee hearing. And we show all 5 of them. If people go to icsc-canada.com, the first button says Ottawans challenge city's climate and energy plans at committee meeting. And you can watch their hearings, okay? You can watch the testimonies. And we should go through some of them because
sure.
I think this demonstrates, it's funny. I have a friend in British Columbia and he says, I hope Ottawa does go through with their plan, because there will be such a catastrophe in Ottawa. So many people will die. They'll never do it in BC. But I think, conservatives have to take their victories where they can get them.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a pretty critical mass here in Ottawa of people who now realize that the climate change plans are insane. Okay. I've been giving presentations all over the city for the last couple of years. And, practically every week now, I get an invitation to go to some group. Usually it's a freedom group, because these people are concerned about climate lockdown and things like that. But as a consequence, people are reading our report and they're taking chunks out of it and they're starting to grill the actual committee on climate change. And so I have here actually the 5 testimonies that were presented. I'm doing it chronologically, so mine is first. But I'll just play you mine, and then we can talk about it, because what was quite funny is after my hearing, there was one question, just one. It came from my councillor. And you'll see he tries to pin me as a supporter of the tobacco industry.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's funny because yeah, I know. And afterwards, people said that my answer to him owned him.
But Tom, I know you to be a bit of a fitness buff.
Yeah,
so this is crazy.
Yeah, I know. And you'll especially laugh when I explain how I actually worked to get smoking banned on airplanes when I was an airworthiness engineer for safety reasons. But I'll play you just a snippet at the end of my testimony. Not all of it, just 1 minute approximately. Actually, yeah, something like that. And I'll play you also the question that came from Sean Devine. Because, please. Oh, man, people who are watching this later said that his face went all red because he looked like a bit of a moron at that moment. So here we go.
As the 7th coldest capital city in the world, it's irresponsible for Ottawa to only plan for warming when cooling is far more dangerous and some scientists would say more likely. It would be like going on a camping trip in an area known to be infested with mosquitoes and black bears and only planning for the mosquitoes. Yes, the bugs can drive you crazy, but the black bears can kill you. Similarly, heat in Ottawa is not fatal, except for the elderly and other vulnerable citizens, and those are people, of course, we should protect. But everyone can die when it's -30 with no heat. Consequently, I asked the committee to direct city staff to incorporate serious preparation for cooling into the climate change master plan. I welcome your comments and questions.
Okay, thank you for that delegation. Councillor Devine.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Mr. Harris. I'm working from home today, so I can't see below your arm. So sure. I can't tell if you brought in all of those books that you brought in last time. I imagine they're pretty heavy to carry. So you're a frequent delegate at these meetings. You've delegated at meetings for my ward as well. And because you're a frequent delegate, I just want to ask a couple of questions to speak to credentials and credibility.
Sure.
So you've let us know that you're the executive director of the International Climate Science Coalition. Thank you. I see that you're also associated with the Heartland Institute, where you're listed as a policy expert. The Heartland Institute certainly has a lovely name. From what I understand, the Heartland Institute is a US-based conservative think tank that is best known for the work that it does, such as what you do, challenging climate science, but also for the work that it's done in challenging the well-known negative health impacts of smoking. Throughout the 1990s, and as recently as 2008, the Heartland Institute was working with tobacco company Philip Morris to discredit health risks associated with secondhand smoking. And so my first question for you, Mr. Harris, do you know whether or not the Heartland Institute with whom you're associated still denies damage done by secondhand smoke?
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
State your point.
My colleague's question does not relate to the matter at hand on the agenda.
I'm going to agree.
I would like to
that.
say something,
And
though, on
I think
it.
I'll let the delegate just respond on the piece around the Heartland Institute, and then I think we need to move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
I only advise the Heartland Institute on climate and energy. I have no involvement with their tobacco issue, and I don't actually know specifically what they say. But I used to work for Transport Canada, and as a non-smoker, and at that time a very strong anti-smoker, I actually petitioned the Minister of Transport to stop smoking allowed on long-haul flights because of safety implications. It actually shares the smoke throughout the whole cabin, and the pilots therefore have a reduction in visual acuity, which is measurable, and we petitioned the minister to ban smoking on airplanes. So to associate me with tobacco is funny because, of course, I am on the other side of the argument. Heartland have roughly 150 advisors on many, many topics, and about twice a year they ask me for some input, and I give it to them, but they don't pay me, and certainly, their other issues are not related to my work on climate.
Okay, thank you for.
That's so funny, Tom, because they immediately, instead of just answering the question, he goes after you personally. By the way, Philip Morris was involved in the developing of a COVID vaccine for, I think it was Medicago, I think it was. The government gave them a bunch of money to develop a COVID vaccine. So the government didn't think Philip Morris was such a bad guy until very, very recently. So why should you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what he did was a guilt by association logical fallacy. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was just basically trying to say you can't trust anything this Harris character says because he worked with people who support smoking, Yeah. And it was quite funny. Now,
Typical.
the next person to speak was Bob Lyman. And that was by the way, the one we just played was by far the longest of them because I wanted to include his silly question because it just shows he didn't ask, what should we do to prepare for cooling? Not a sensible question, which would have been obvious. Instead, he tries to discredit me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I were you, I would have asked him, what are your credentials to be opining on climate change issues? Because this is the work that I've done. You tell me where you come from.
Well, it is interesting. Sean Devine, a fellow, sent me a link, actually. Sean was an actor, and he was in a horror film.
Right, I remember. I think he ran for the NDP also, didn't he?
Oh, something like that, yeah. So obviously he's very well qualified to speak on climate change. Now, Bob Lyman is our economics expert, and I just have a little snippet at the end because he really put it in a nutshell. He just basically nailed it at the very end of his testimony. This is only about 25 seconds. So here we go.
The basic reality here is that reducing emissions in Canada will have essentially zero effect in terms of global temperatures and climate. The Ottawa Climate Plan proposes to spend somewhere between $52 and $57 billion to reduce emissions and to do Ottawa's share, whatever that might be, to reduce it, to contribute to climate change. So you have a $52 to $57 billion expenditure, and you have zero environmental benefits. That won't pass any kind of a cost-benefit test in any government in the world.
Except, of course, the Trudeau government.
Right.
Yeah. No, I guess what he could have said is it won't pass any cost-benefit analysis in any rational government in the world.
Oh, hey, what you just saw there is a clip from my weekly full-length show, The Gunn Show. It airs on Wednesday, but this is the internet. You can watch it whenever you feel like. You just have to become a subscriber to our paywalled premium content. Just go to rebelnewsplus.com to become a member today.